moment of realization for me came from Spielberg, Mr. Steven Spielberg. He made me think, he made me feel, he made me see the worlds that he built through his films such as Jaws, of course E.T., Jurassic Park was a big part of my high school days, and of course lately the Fablemans. Mr. Spielberg made me realize that it's a process. Filmmaking is a process of making mistakes, making new realizations, making the stories of others, not just the stories inside of yourself, are the ones worth telling.
It was Extra by Jeffrey Gitoroyan, starring Vilma Santos Recto. I remember growing up, I was already drawn to independent Filipino films. Those quiet ones, the imperfect ones, the low-budgeted ones. And I felt that those films are actually very honest. When I saw Extra, it really hit me hard. Watching Vilma Santos, who happened to be our governor ata during that time, playing someone so invisible, so ordinary, it made me realize that films don't have to be loud to be powerful. You know what, coming from the province, that kind of storytelling really felt familiar. It felt like life actually. That's when I knew that indie films were speaking my language.
First film siguro Whiplash na pinagbidahan ni Miles Teller. Kasi dun ko unang na-feel yung pagiging o yung capabilities, yung ability ng isang pelikula na maging intense, na maging impactful sa buhay ng isang tao. Dun ko na realize din na ang pelikula ay hindi lang sweet, hindi lang soft, Ang pelikula ay pwede ring maging harsh, Ang pelikula ay pwedeng makapag-disturb, ng pagkatao ng isang manonood.
It might sound crazy, but the first film that made me feel something was actually Pearl Harbor. It's not just because of what the movie meant, what it represented, but also because of the fact I grew up watching it with my lolo. It was always his movie that he would play in his room, and we would always have it on repeat. I've watched like the whole Pearl Harbor, like the different DVDs, so it was still divided because of the time limits that you could only have on different CDs.
I could say I'm more patient now. I'm more disciplined. I'd like to think so. I've placed a system based on my learnings from my past mistakes and failures. I have become more of a reader, a learner, and I became more humble, realizing that I needed to be a beginner again and unlearn all the things that I've learned before and think like a beginner every single day. So for me, it's always day one every day. The stories are out there. It's up for me to discover, learn as I create, and hopefully share in through films, but also open to other platforms or multimedia forms in sharing my newly discovered stories and the messages, the insights, the learnings, the lessons that they may share to others.
It actually taught me not to rush emotion. A look, pause, a scene where nothing really happens. Those moments stay with you forever. Being a Batanggenyo storyteller, life really moves slower, so I want my stories to breathe the same way.
Perhaps that influenced me in a way na gusto ko na yung mga kinukwento kong storya ngayon ng mga tao ay hindi lang siya nakaanggulo doon sa magagandang parts nito, kundi doon sa mga totoo na minsan harsh, na minsan intense, minsan mahirap panoorin at dalhin. Mas doon ako naglilin ngayon sa mga kwentong totoo sa maraming tao.
Since Pearl Harbor was about history, I think that's the number one thing that shaped how I tell stories. I'm a person who really believes in the importance of human insight, of always going back to what is the human truth. And that's something that I really carry with me whenever I want or even read other things. Like, what's the insight behind this? How do I relate? How do others relate? And how important is it for other people, not just me?
Yes, I could say yes. From Spielberg, I eventually discovered Capra, Sir Frank Capra, Christopher Nolan, and many other great directors. And they opened up, new worlds for me. And thank God I learned about openness, again, humility. And they gave me a new perspective, a new lens, I could say. And there is a learning there that there's a point where you kind of let go of your past heroes and embracing and engaging new ones. And when you say let go, it's not about fully letting go of what you learned from them, but it's more of embracing other storytellers that may guide you, influence you, and give you further insights into what meaningful and purposeful storytelling is.
Definitely, of course. When I was younger, I was so obsessed with Filipino filmmakers, Jeffrey Jiterian, Brillante Mendoza, Lab Diaz. I even studied their pacing, their shots. But now, I'm more inspired by people, I guess. Like my grandmother telling the same story over and over again. Tricycle driver pag sumasakay ako or pag nagpapagupit ako sa barbero na nag-oversharing. I think those moments feel more cinematic to me now.
Yes, for sure nagbago yung influences ko. Kasi nung bata ako, mas nagugustuhan ko no yung mga pelikulang, syempre, pambata. Pero ngayon, mas malapit na sa puso ko no yung mga pelikulang totoo. No, yung mga pelikulang nagpapakita o nagsasalamin no sa realidad no ng mundo natin no na hindi tinatago no yung dumi no yung baho no na nakikita naman natin talaga sa araw-araw.
As I grew older, yes, my inspirations did change. Growing older, I was exposed to what everybody watched at the time. So it was like High School Musical and a lot of other films. And it really shaped my childhood and it really shaped how I view film and also a lot of other stuff because it made me realize that human insight is so different. It doesn't have to always be important. It doesn't have to always be historical. It could be as simple as a high school love story that somebody's going through.
Yes, in my opinion, it is very dangerous to idolize your heroes, the storytellers and the filmmakers that are very close to your heart. Here, your heroes are meant to be a guide, an inspiration, especially in your journey to discovering your own voice in storytelling. So in my experience, especially in what I went through, I've had a lot of inspiration. Let's say heroes, although I'm more into not saying the word idolatry or idolizing them, but more of them being a guide, an inspiration, and a light for me, especially during times that I cannot find my way through this storytelling journey. So the key is to find your own voice. And the only way to do that is to stop. There's a point where you have to stop idolizing, quote unquote, idolizing your heroes, the storytellers and the filmmakers that are guiding you in this storytelling journey of yours.
I think, yes, it's quite dangerous to idolize filmmakers too much, especially when you start copying instead of listening. Idolizing too much can make you afraid to be simple. I had to unlearn that and remind myself that my job isn't to be them, it's to tell stories only I can tell.
Yes, that's actually super dangerous, no? Lalo kung baguhan kang kwentista, no? Storyteller, filmmaker. Pag super nag-idolize ka sa mga filmmakers, nakagawa ka sa isip mo ng isang unrealistic standards, no, na kailangan mong i-meet. Na panagsimula ka, dapat ganito na yung kalidad, no, ng kwento mo o pagkukwento mo. Pero kasi mali yun, kasi natatakot lang tayo, no, overwhelmed tayo to the point na hindi tayo makapagsimula. So, kailangan natin din ihiwalay, no, yung ating mga sarili, yung standard natin, no, sa mga sarili natin doon sa standards ng mga veterano na. Kasi alam naman natin, no, na marami na silang karanasan at tayo nagsisimula pa lang. So, magandang paalala din na we should always be kind to ourselves, no. We should be generous, no, sa ating mga sarili.
Personally, I think it's dangerous to idolize anything or anyone too much. Because when you idolize somebody too much, you tend to lose yourself. You tend to lose your own sense of voice. And you also tend to forget what you really want to write about. So I think, yes, idolizing a filmmaker or any other creator is really dangerous because it makes you lose your sense of self.